This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Berryfield. In a few minutes, I'll be joined by
Our friend Mike Regalado.
Hey, Mike.
on an MJ edition. The MJ edition.
The ceiling is the roof.
Of course, just Mike and me on the What's Bruin Show, coming to you on the What's Bruin Show network, and we thank you for your support. You can get us on the Twitter at What's Bruin Show, email what'sbruinshow@gmail.com. You can read our Substack, what'sbruin.substack.com, and subscribe there, or you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/what'sbruinshow or what'sbruinshow.com will get you there, and for just a couple bucks a month,
$2.
you can send the What's Bruin Show into the future. We appreciate your support. You can also buy WBSN merch on our My Locker site. Look in the show notes. And also, you can search us up on YouTube. Please subscribe. It would really help if you guys, you haven't subscribed to us on Twitter or on Instagram or on YouTube. Subscribe on there for us, and we would appreciate that support as well. And finally, you can call us on the hotline, 805-399-4WBS, second reign of Troy. Hoping to have dinner with them soon. But call us on the hotline. Let us know what your thoughts are on Deshaun Foster as the UCLA head football coach. The new OC, apparently, Eric Bienemy. The women's basketball team, their big win over the Buffaloes. Or the men's team kind of running out of steam a little bit and losing to SC. Those are all things we'll probably be talking about tonight on the show. But if you have your thoughts about those things or anything coming up in the future with UCLA, please call the hotline and let us know what is up. Now, I'll probably bring in Mike on in a minute. He is remote today, so I'm waiting for him to kind of get ready. But while I'm waiting, that's probably what the shape of the show will be. At least for the time being going forward. If Mike can't make it up here, he'll be on the phone. I'll probably intro the show, and then we'll bring him on, and it'll be a little more efficient on my end. Of course, I don't begrudge Mike for not coming up here. It is a little bit of a haul for him. Early in the days of the What's Bruin Show, we used to do this on a rotation. It'd be 1 week at Bill's, 1 week at mine, 1 week at Mike's. And, of course, me and Bill live very close in proximity to each other. So when we had to make the haul out to wherever Mike was living at the time, there was a couple of different destinations that we had gone to. And believe me, we were not enjoying the trip across town or the trip across town late into the evening. So, like I said, Mike's always got a green light to call in as we do, since we're both working full time and all that stuff. But I guess without further ado, let's bring on Mike Regalado.
Mike Regalado.
Mike,
What
how
is
are you
up,
doing
Jake?
tonight? I'm doing good.
Good,
man.
thank you. How you doing?
Very good. So let's just get right into football talk, I guess, okay?
Let's do it.
Go. Yeah.
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, hood, hey! Football.
We are, if you hear some dogs barking in the background, I apologize, but there's nobody else here but me, and my dogs want to go outside and bark at things, so I apologize in advance. So, Mike, since last time I talked to you, we talked about Coach Foster getting hired a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, and then I went on vacation, and the offensive coordinator thing was a big deal, of course, and it looks like they found their man, Sean Foster. Martin Drummond, UCLA hires Eric Bienemy, who was not fired, maybe fired, chose to leave voluntarily from his offensive coordinator position in the NFL. A little shade of Chip Kelly there, I guess, taking a downgrade, so to speak, coming to UCLA if you want to believe what he has to say about it. But regardless, Bienemy returns to UCLA after being Maurice Jones-Drew's coach way back in the Carl Durrell years. And, of course, Maurice Jones-Drew thought very highly of Bienemy, and he's gone on to lots of different success in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs. The one thing you can say about this hire, that's undeniable, is that for a hire happening in February, in the February part of the coaching cycle, this is certainly a big name hire that would otherwise probably be unexpected. So you can't take that away from Foster or Drummond or UCLA. Like there's undeniable. It's undeniable that Bienemy has credentials. I have heard before we get to what your first thoughts are on it. I have heard overwhelmingly glowing things about the hire, which I think could be justified, and I've heard probably some pessimistic things about the hire, which I think could also be justified. So I certainly have a lot of thoughts about Bienemy becoming the offensive coordinator, but certainly I don't think it can be categorized as a bad hire, no matter how you spin it. Maybe not as great as just taking it for granted that it's going to be wonderful. But those are all things we can talk about. What were your first thoughts when you heard that Bienemy was hired, Mike?
Those rumors started flying around. I think it was maybe last Thursday or Friday. And automatically, as you said, the opinions started flowing. And, when looking at a coach, you try to see what his experience is. And, you can't deny the fact that he not only has experience in college as well as the NFL, but he's also been a part of a Super Bowl winning team. And whether, we don't exactly know, what happened, as you said. But the fact that he was still a part of an organization that has his shit together enough to win the whole goddamn thing. Whether it was him or Andy Reid, the fact that he's learning under Andy Reid and he's, working with the offense to develop champions, basically, how can you deny that? And, he hasn't been in college for, quite a while. But, we've seen so many things happen with coaches at UCLA. People want to hire a home run, want to have home run hires. They did in Chip Kelly. It went nowhere. People complained that Chip Kelly hiring Danton Lynn, it's like, it's a question mark. What he was a defensive backs coach with the Baltimore Ravens. How is that going to translate? Well, obviously it did. People complained about Deshaun Foster. It's like, he's never been a head coach before or a coordinator. Okay, well, hiring, the guy that went to a championship once didn't work. So let's see what happens with, this guy, bringing in a fresh set of eyes. He already knows the roster. And to have two guys who have not only coached, but played the game, I think there's just so much positivity going forward, and there's so much this team can do. What exactly they can do, we'll see. Well, they're out on the recruiting trail. They're haven't landed anybody yet, but they're shooting big, and I think this is just a really good addition to what Deshaun Foster has in mind for this team.
Well, I think you're certainly bringing in a guy with a lot of experience, and that's cool because we were, hoping that he was going to bring in Foster was at least some people on his coaching staff that have, if not head coaching experience, a lot of coaching experience because Foster's taking a step up into what his responsibilities are, of course. And I think Bienemy qualifies as that, certainly. And like you said, Mike, he was part of some very successful teams. He was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs for about 4 years. Before that, he was their running backs coach. Just like Foster was at UCLA, but he was that for the Chiefs. And he had another offensive coordinator stint on his ledger before that. We'll get to that in a few minutes. And then most recently he was with the Commanders. So there's a lot on the resume. This is not a young dude by any means.
Yeah, this is an unknown dude. Yeah.
But I would also say that just like when Chip hired Danton Lynn to come to coach the defense, I don't think this is a absolute known commodity as far as it's not a slam dunk hire in my opinion. But then again, the whole Deshaun Foster, staff is not going to be a slam dunk. Like I said, this is kind of a uncertain and unknown kind of proposition. Bringing in Foster as a first year head coach, and now he made a good hire. It seems like with Bienemy, but we don't have. It's not like Bienemy's coming in with a system of his own, right? He ran an offense for the Kansas City Chiefs that was pretty much Andy Reid's offense, and he may have coached it well, but there's debate as to whether or not he was the guy who's actually calling the plays, or how much of the plays is calling and all that stuff. So he might have been doing it, and he might be good at it, but I don't think we're going to know yet. We can't really say that we know that based on he went to the Commanders to get out from under Andy Reid's shadow by all accounts, and I don't think there was anything definitive there. I don't think you could really trash him for the job that he did with the Commanders, because the Commanders were just kind of a crappy team overall, and he was supposed to be going to play under a defensive-minded coach in Ron Rivera, and the Commanders had like the worst defense. I think I misspoke. He went to go play under a defensive coach, Ron Rivera, to show what his offense could do, right? So he's got, Rivera's got one side of the ball taken care of, and now he's going to take care of the offensive side of the ball. And the offense of the Washington Commanders was better than the defense this year. They had like the worst defense in the league, I think. So that's just a long way of saying like the jury's out on what he is on his own as an offensive coordinator. But certainly, this is a guy with a lot of experience, and I think you very easily could give him the benefit of the doubt, especially when you think about the guys who stand up and say nice things about him or that stick up for him. And pretty much lots of people that he's worked for have said that he is an amazing coach, and that he's a terrific motivator, and he's a guy who really lights a fire under people's butts and really, gets after them, but in a motivating way, if that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So those are all things that I think are positives. I don't think anybody can doubt that Bienemy is a guy that that can't coach at all, right? We know that, and that's what his experience on his ledger shows for it. Now, is he going to be a guy that can run a college offense that is successful? I don't know. The last time he was running a college offense, he did it for 2 years, and it was the worst offense in the Pac-12 2 years running, pretty much. Worst points scored, and I think it was 11th and 12th out of the 12-team league in total offense, right? So that was, of course, in the when he was coaching under John Emery at Colorado before he ended up going to the NFL. He left UCLA to go coach with Emery in Colorado. They were the worst team in the Pac-12 for 2 years, and then they all got fired. So there are question marks about this, right? So. Mm-hmm. I certainly am not disappointed with the hiring. I absolutely am not, but I'm also not, blowing rainbows out my butt, because I just feel like this, I think I said it a minute ago. I kind of look at this as like the Dan Tomlin hire. For different reasons, it is an unknown, and so we're going to have to see how it goes. But then again, the whole thing with Foster is an unknown. Mike, I don't want to. Actually, I just want to make sure we get to all kind of the relevant parts around this discussion. So let's just kind of go through this phase by phase. When you think about what the offense is going to be, right? I think that UCLA, just by who they didn't lose to the transfer portal since the coaching changes happened, and who they still have on the roster. We talked about this a month ago. I think that they have a chance to have a really productive offense just with the parts that they have. When you talk about Ethan Garbers, you talk about the receivers that they have, J. Mike and Kyle Ford and everybody there, the tight ends, and the running backs, TJ Harden, and I think that they have players to have a good offense. I think I was going to take that for granted if Chip Kelly was still the coach. I thought they were going to have a bounce back year in that respect, but now everything's changing. So, what kind of offense under Foster and Bienemy at this point, both running backs coaches at heart probably, but or certainly, what kind of offense do you think will be successful? Do you think it'll look a lot like Chip's, or do you think how do you think it'll change? What if you had your druthers, what would you like to see change? Just start right there on the pro side of Bienemy getting hired.
They obviously, with the majority of that, or at least half, who remains from the coaching staff from last year. But no, not just the coaching staff, but also the players. And you can't argue, other than last year, but that seemed to be bad personnel choices rather than scheme. Chip Kelly has always had really good schemes, and they're very smart. They're very useful. I think it would be pretty dumb for them not to adopt at least a few. I'm not saying all or half. I don't know. This is his first head coaching gig. We'll see how he delegates and what input he has with the offense and defense, actually. But obviously, you're having Eric Bienemy, who is he going to bring something like he was used to in Kansas City? Is he going to learn some of the plays that Chip was the architect of, and just build upon that. Especially when you have the guys who played in that system. Why not go with a little bit of that, but that also, take a step forward. I'm not saying you have to reinvent the offense, but do something splashy. Involve the passing game a little bit more. You have all these studs who barely got the ball through the air last year because Chip Kelly was focused on the run game. Split that up, make it 50-50. Don't go. It's especially if it works. Start using the Kyle Fords and the Jay Michaels.
Well, I think they didn't pass the ball enough because they had a 5-star that was supposed to be able to pass the ball that they couldn't. The game was too fast for him. I think that was the biggest part of that problem. But yeah, continue, Mike.
Yeah, it's also hard to catch balls when you're getting your quarterbacks throwing pick sixes. So I'm just saying,
for sure.
But no, I would like to see some more of the receiver play. They got that guy from Notre Dame, Rico Flores.
That's right.
His name. You have all this talent, use all of it. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they do. But I hope there is still a little bit of Chip Kelly's advanced degree schemes in there, because that was a pretty smart offense.
I am real curious to see how when we actually get to spring practice and all that stuff, what are they going to look like when they practice? How similar will they look to how Kelly did it or how Mora did it? Those are the coaches that Foster has worked under for the last decade. Or and offensively, how will Bienemy manage how he divvies up his reps and how he organizes the offense, what they actually practice? That is a big question, of course. And then as far as what the scheme goes, that's what I think is a giant question mark for this hire. I don't have any doubt that Bienemy is going to get on people's ass and be able to motivate the players to try hard. I mean, I think that has been over and over again, or also, to be technically good at running the ball and the technical aspects of just being an offensive football player. I think Bienemy has that up, down, left, and sideways. He'll be good at doing that and teaching that, right? What we don't know is what kind of offense is he going to run, right? Because at this point, has he really ran his own offense other than the Washington year last year? And I don't even know how much of that was just him. Is that what he's going to try to do at UCLA? I think it is a very valid concern that when you bring in a guy that was an offensive coordinator in the NFL coming to college, and this is not my original take, of course, everybody's been saying this, but it's will it be too complicated for dudes that don't get to practice as much as they do in the NFL? The dudes that have other responsibilities and that aren't getting paid as much money to be, they're not, at least not yet, they're not being paid to be professionals, or most of these guys aren't on the college level. And will it be too complicated? The thing that I'm envisioning, or not that I'm envisioning, I'm hoping that this isn't the way it goes, is, I just think back to Mora's, the second year of Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen's first year, he comes in, he's a wonderkin, he's got Noel Mazzoni out there, he's doing everything right, he's putting up big numbers. The Bruins end up winning 9 games, I think, that year, and they had a couple close losses, and everything with the arrow was pointing way up for Josh Rosen, for Mora, for everything. And then Mora gets over his skis a little bit, I think, overthinking things and saying, I want a more complicated offense. I want something that's more tailored to a pro-style, quarterback that we're trying to turn Rosen into. And he brings in another running back coach, right? Kenny DePola or Polamalu, whichever one you prefer. He started as Pola and then, or he started as Polamalu, then went to Pola, and then went back to Polamalu. But Polamalu comes in and he's got a offense that is, the offensive playbook weighed 700 pounds. And it just stuck the Bruins in the mud that year. Their offense completely regressed. It was way too complicated. It was way too overthought, and it just was not good. And I think that is a big danger here with Bienemy if he is trying to accomplish too much with college kids. Now, on the flip side of that, there's no guarantee that's what it's going to be. He might come in and he might be ready to roll, and he's putting them in positions to succeed, and it's an offense that work. But that's definitely an unknown. There's nothing that we can't say. He's bringing in the offense that a lot of Bruin fans wanted Foster to go get the guy from UNLV that had his, I can't remember what it's called, but it's another
Marion.
Yeah, well, Marion, but I don't remember what his offense is called. But anyways, it was kind of like Chip's. I'm having a brain fart right now, but what do we call Chip's offense when he was at Oregon? The
Blur.
The Blur, yeah. there is no, or the end zone offense from Mazzoni, right? This Bienemy does not have this is my offense sort of thing. So that's a big mystery. So it could be good, it could be bad. To me, that's where it's in a giant unknown, and I'm hoping for the best. So I guess we'll have to see about that. Mike, do you have any questions about? So it feels like if Bienemy, once again, because he's kind of a high energy guy, although he is getting a little bit older, right? He's older than both of us. He's 54. Do you think that, back when he was with the Bruins, he actually was in charge of their recruiting to one degree or another, and then he went off to Colorado, and I don't know what his responsibilities were there, but this is 20 years ago. Do you think that a guy coming in at his age with his experience is going to put a lot of effort into recruiting or not, or somewhere in between? What's your first impression of that?
Yeah, I don't see how he doesn't. I mean, he comes in here knowing the name of the game. This isn't the NFL. This is college, especially with how Deshaun Foster has hit the ground running. Already sending out, throwing out a big net, or already offering, big time players around the country. Bienemy knows this. He has to, get in on that. And he's 54. It's not young, but he's not 60, 70.
That's true.
He's still pretty spry, and obviously, there's that narrative that just doing a little bit is doing more than Chip Kelly did. But I mean, it's true. You don't just don't pigeonhole yourself in recruiting. Go for everybody. See who's available, who's interested, who might want to play here. Figure out all the specifics later. Academics, NIL, travel, distance. Family, all that stuff. Just go out there, see who's interested, and work from there. That's something that Chip Kelly, didn't really do. He was trying to be gimmicky. He thought that just being Chip Kelly would warrant, classes full of like 4 and 5 stars, and clearly it did not.
Well, and he kind of changed his focus to the transfer portal too, right? Like he had lots of big wins in the portal, but the high school recruiting definitely suffered.
Yeah, and also that too. That's I guess you could say that's like free agency. It's like it's a little bit of the NFL coming to the college. No, not really, but you can see how that's working out. And obviously, they're doing stuff with NIL. So I think Bienemy is coming in with a good structure, a good foundation so far. Obviously, they have to continue with that. And I did want to ask you in a little bit about what you think about, them still not filling out some key positions and potential, Neuheisel moving to tight ends coaches so that they can potentially bring in their own receivers coach, stuff like that. But yeah, they have to fill that out. But really quickly, with Bienemy, he knows what this is about. I don't think he would have taken the job if he was like, wait, recruiting? I have to recruit? That's the job.
Yeah, no, I get that. I am a little worried about it in this regard, right? And this kind of leads me to my other concern about the hire as far as like what the culture of the staff will be. But Bienemy is certainly a guy, as of a couple years ago, he was a guy that was being talked about as next up as far as getting a head coaching position in the NFL, let alone in college football, right? And then he got passed over for whatever reason you want to talk about. There's been a lot of reasons why people talk about why he did get passed over, but the fact is that he did not get a head coaching spot in the NFL, right? But does he still have that ambition to be a head coach? One of the things that Andy Reid said when he was talking about how good a job he will do at UCLA, he said, literally, this is Reid's quote, he's got an opportunity to do his thing on offense. Once again, we don't know what his thing is. He knows the landscape. He's been at UCLA before. Maybe he's a head coach at the college level. And my question about Bienemy here in Westwood is, hopefully, like with Lynn, they can catch a lightning in a bottle and have a really good season on offense, and Bienemy is successful in all regards, right? And they put forth a good offense. But I think unlike Danton Lynn, where we were like, all the Bruins had to do was pay him and he would stay, because it feels like that's why he left. I don't feel like Bienemy is a long-term hire for the Bruins no matter what, right? Because he's not 82. He's not in his 60s. He's still 54. And by all accounts, within the last couple of years, all he wants to do is get a head coaching job somewhere, right? So I've heard in different avenues that, well, he's going to be at UCLA for a year or two and then try to get the head coaching job at Colorado after Dion, which, whatever. Nobody knows anything that specific, man. Like, nobody knows. It's pretty galaxy brain to think that far ahead. But regardless, I don't feel like it's a long-term move to have Bienemy here as the offensive coordinator. I mean, Mike, do you see any way in which, if the Bruins are successful, like, number one, if they suck, they're probably going to get fired anyway, right? If they're only going to have a couple few years. But if they're really good somehow, then he's not going to stay longer than a year or, a year or two at most, is he?
I mean, he could. Again, he's not a youngster who, if he has a fantastic year like Lynn, he's going to be a super hot commodity. Maybe the fact that he is 54, he might want to stay. That could be a possibility. I mean, like, do you really want to move around all that much when you're that old? It's not old. He's not, decrepit, but that's still a possibility. And let's say, I just thought about two things when you were talking about it. What if UCLA becomes really, really good? What if recruiting is just on fire? At that point, it becomes really fun. And I could see, some coaches saying, hey, let's take it as far as we can go. And obviously, like even Nick Saban, and I'm not saying that this is Alabama Nick Saban level, but he has so many assistant coaches, position coaches, coordinators who got opportunities elsewhere. And now several of them are head coaches. Yeah, that could be a possibility. What about if UCLA does really good, that Deshaun Foster gets picked up somewhere else? Well, then there you go. A head coaching position has just opened up, and Bienemy could potentially be the UCLA head coach. Again, we have no idea. We're just speculating. But no, I understand what you're saying about it. And it does feel like that's kind of the theme for UCLA right now. It's especially it's so late in the season when Chip Kelly kind of screwed the program over. They had to hire, someone quickly, someone that luckily has injected some life into this program. But that's the thing, as I said, 2 weeks ago, all we have is hope right now. Everyone can feel good, up until like the end of next season, where if they go something like 3-9, I could see fans going, okay, it's his first year, but still not great. But again, so many unknowns.
In the immortal words of Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and we have to wait until September to see if how the Bruins take a punch. But yeah, Mike, I don't know. Like, I think I will offer you 1,000-to-1 odds that if someone gets hired away from this team in the next couple of years, it would not be Foster in favor of Bienemy. Like if they're good, if they're pretty good. I think Foster's the one that's going to be motivated to stay, and Bienemy's the one that's going to be bouncing. I just feel like everything about his CV in the last number of years is that this guy wants a head coaching job, and so this coming back around just to put a button on the recruiting part of this thing is, you're right, Mike. Potentially, he's a guy who did recruit way back when, but potentially he could be a good recruiter because he's got all the right things that he can say. I coach Super Bowl champions. I coach Patrick Mahomes. I coach MJG. I coach all of these all-pro dudes, right? And they all have nice things to say about me. I want to say when the Chiefs were struggling on offense earlier in the year, after Bienemy went to Washington, one of the things that they were pinning their struggles on were, we miss EB, and so certainly there is a lot of cachet with hiring a guy with Bienemy's profile. Okay, and that certainly can rub recruits the right way, you would think, and allow them to get, certainly is probably going to open more doors than it closes. On the flip side of that, I am worried that if Bienemy is, ambitious to leave, right, he's not going to be here long term. Why? There's also a part of me that's like, why would he be really motivated to recruit that much if he's not planning on being here very long anyway, right? If he's like,
it's
if I can make
job.
Okay. Oh, well, great. Yeah, it was part of Chip Kelly's job too, right? Was he ever motivated to do it? Hell no, right? He wanted to do what he wanted to do. So for different reasons, maybe, he might not be motivated to recruit one little bit, because he's like, well, I got J-Mike to throw to. I got Ethan Garbers. If I can turn him into or if I can have him turn in a great season, I got this guy Harden to hand the rock off to. Got all these tight ends to make it look pretty. If I put together a nice offense this year, boom, I'm out of here. What the hell do I care about who comes to the Bruins next year or the year after that, right? That is my worry about if it goes wrong. I think that is kind of where it goes wrong. And then once again, it's a very valid, reasonable argument to say that he's going to be a good recruiter too. But those things still, to me, are kind of an unknown. I don't think it's a slam dunk by any means, because he had to recruit somebody for over a decade. So that's just something that we just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but it's like I said, he knows what he's getting into. He can't not recruit. Even though we mock Chip Kelly for saying, oh, he didn't recruit, he did. He just didn't recruit the way he should have. He didn't recruit the way that could have really bolstered this program, his offense, the offensive line.
Yeah. I just don't think that Eric Bienemy going to the Ivy League like Chip did is going to be something that inspires, confidence in fans. We don't know if that's going to be the case, though. Like you said, they're casting a wide net right now. I mean, they're putting out a lot of offers just in the last couple of weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, whereas Chip Kelly kind of turned his back on the fans for the majority of his tenure, Chip Kelly kind of turned his back on the media trying to cover him for the majority of his tenure. That does not seem to at least to be the posture of Deshaun Foster at this point, and it's already paid dividends in the NIL stuff and all that. So those are things that are pointing up for the Bruins. So that's probably going to make it easier to recruit guys as well if they have a healthy cash flow and all of that. So there's certainly a reason to be optimistic about it. I'm just saying there are questions. There's things that may or may not work out, and they are unknowns because that's just the way it is when you're putting together a coaching staff of guys that have never done the job before or guys that haven't done the job for a number of years. I mean, don't you think that's fair to say, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. And we're just going through like all these scenarios, but I mean, it's all stuff that you have to be aware of. This is why it is such a high pressured decision for athletic directors to do. But no, I mean, the bottom line is like we don't know. Hopefully, there's good in it. Hopefully, Bienemy is ready to hit the ground running. But yeah, we just don't know.
Yeah, and just to be very, very clear, I in no way, shape, or form am saying this is a bad hire at all. Like this is a hire that absolutely could be a home run based on a variety of factors. I just don't think I just don't think it is a slam dunk. It might turn into that, but I don't think we will know that now. It's just something we're going to have to wait and see about, right? Mike, with that being said, I believe you wanted to talk about something else related to football that's slipping my mind right now. Do you remember what it is?
And yeah, like I touched on it earlier. I just wanted to talk about, basically Deshaun Foster is not only hit the ground running, but he's like, you know what? This is my program. I'm taking control of it. And by doing that, not only by hiring Eric Bienemy, handing out, just scholarship offers to big-time recruits, he's literally making this thing his own. I touched upon it last week where I said that Sam Laz, Director of Communication, I believe it was, and Ethan Young, Director of Personnel. What was his title? I'm blanking on it right now. He was let go as well.
Yeah, manager position. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as Darren Usher, who went back to Oregon. He was here for a month. So yeah, it's I do like it. It's unfortunate that these individuals who have been with the program and done what they can for the program are, out of a job right now. But, that's, things just didn't work out. And it is Deshaun Foster's program now. And he's doing what he can to better it on every level. We'll see how communications and personnel director, how that is affected going forward. But also the fact that he might potentially move Jerry Neuheisel, fan favorite as both a player and a coach, moving him from receivers to tight ends coach, per Bruin Report, because Foster might want to bring in his own receivers coach. So just a lot of different changes. Do you have any quick thoughts on any of that?
Oh, I mean, just number one with Jerry, I think, he's such a young coach. And by the way, wide receivers to tight ends, yeah, there's technical differences there. And, but however, Jerry wants to be a well-rounded coach, I am sure. His dad was a head coach for many years.
Oh, yeah,
and
learn many positions.
If that is his, that's what his end goal is, then whatever position he's coaching, probably it's always going to be on offense, but whatever position he's coaching, it's just more experience for him. And so that's good for his profile, I think, to some degree or another. Now, whether or not that means that what that indicates about what his cachet is with Foster is a whole nother thing. Foster let Ethan Young go and or whatever, he gave him his walking papers, or Ethan Young chose to leave when he got hired. I think, relatively speaking, Young was a very positive presence for the UCLA program, at least in the in the eyes of fans and the media. He literally was one of the only guys on the Chip Kelly staff that had a positive relationship all the time, because all he was doing was going boom, 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 and it was a cool little fun thing. It was like one of the only fun things about UCLA recruiting the last 6 years was when he would tweet out a boom, right? That was literally the only thing that was consistently working, because it was like, oh, hey, what happened? It was a fun little gimmick. But for whatever reason, Foster has another idea of what that vision is. So, hopefully he puts in something that is, that is at least equally as effective or more effective. But he let Young go, but he kept Neuheisel. But if he's going to move him, you don't know what exactly the nature of the relationship is, or what the plans are, or, how Jerry's going to mesh with the rest of the staff that Foster is putting in place, right? So that all remains to be seen. But I would say it's good for Jerry to just, keep coaching and get more experience doing another position. Fine. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, totally.
But overall, you really just, I'm wondering how the coaching staff meshes, right? They lose Ken Norton on defense, right? They have a first-year DC. They have a first-year head coach.
That's another position they have to fill. Linebackers coach.
Yeah. So, we'll see how it all rounds out, and who's going to actually go out and get the linebackers coach. Is it going to be Foster? Is he going to let somebody on the defense go out and find that? But, we'll see. And it just kind of depends. Foster's been coaching for a long time, and I'm sure he has lots of relationships in football. And will he be, is this kind of like him starting to develop, if he's going to be a head coach for a while, who knows? But is this going to be him starting to develop his own coaching tree? Is he going to reach out to guys that are a little bit more experienced, like we were kind of suggesting it would be good to have? And certainly, like I said, Bienemy's one of those guys. But it is going to be curious to see how the rest of the staff rounds out, because they still got to add a couple coaches regardless of where they're going to be at. And hopefully, the management side of the program is something that, even though they lose these guys, the one guy just went back to Oregon as soon as Young left, you have to hope they're going to have some sort of people in place to get all the work done that needs to be done. That is the big key thing there. Maybe they replace Young with 3 or 4 guys. That would be awesome. But who knows? But they just need to be doing the work that needs to be done to make it easier for these guys to go recruit in the way that we all think they need to recruit, and that they should be able to recruit at UCLA. So it's kind of interesting to think about what that could be. Well, we did get another announcement this week, Mike, about the spring game. That was something that got a lot of headlines in the Bruin community. They're moving the spring game back to the Rose Bowl, looks like. What do you think about that?
Awesome. Those were always fun. Enough of again, with the gimmicks, the showcase. We get it. You don't want to do a full game. You're just going to have practice, but that's boring. That was so boring. I have to say, just give the people something. It's like 4 months since the end of the season, 4 months until the next season. Just give the fans something. You try to do this. Chip Kelly tried to do this whole, I guess, like a festival or something like that. But again, when the main feature is boring as hell, there was just no incentive to go there.
He treated us all with such disdain and basically just ran a normal practice. And even at that, it was a shitty practice. So,
Yeah.
no.
And the only reason he had to do it was contractual.
Yeah, they had to put something on the network, which is it's just ludicrous the way that he handled that part of it. I don't really care about the location. Like being at the Rose Bowl is fine. If it would done it at Drake, I think it would be equally fine. The stands would look more full if they did it at Drake, I think. And there's certainly pros to that as well. The main thing that I'm glad their messaging is that they're just trying to make it a thing. Right. And now it remains to be seen whether it actually will be a thing. Like, will they actually scrimmage? As opposed to, punt and kick and and warm up and do funky stretches. I think that's the most important thing is this is an opportunity for them to have some fan engagement. So if they turn it into an event in that regard, however they do it, then this will be another like victory for them, and we'll be giving them some high fives or whatever and giving them some applause, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Mike, right now, I think the Vegas over and under is still like around like 5.5. I think that depending on your optimism level as a fan, when we were going into the season, we're going into the offseason with Chip Kelly as the coach, and they hadn't fired him, and he hadn't chosen to slink off with his tail between his legs like he eventually did. This is kind of when I was talking about how good I think the offense could be and probably should be under him next year. And I was making the point that you don't want to lower expectations so much that you make it easy for Chip Kelly next year in 2024 to exceed expectations, right? Because of going into the Big Ten and because of the way the season finished and because of the negativity fans had towards him. Don't be like, oh, they're going to suck terrible next year. They're going to be 2-10 or they're going to be 3-9 or whatever. And then he comes out there and he wins 6 or 7 or 8 games or whatever because the offense is much improved and just because they are not trying to appease Dante Moore. More. How do you like it? And all of a sudden they're then he can make the case of, look what we did. You guys thought we were going to suck and we're so much better, right? And I was cautioning fans and the media really about letting the bar get set too low for him going into the Big Ten season. And Bill told me to go F myself, and I think you rolled your eyes at me or whatever. But that's okay. I'm used to that. In this sense, though, and just listening to some of the, like, I think, Mike, you and me both agree that, if UCLA at this point said, we are issuing $1 million stock certificates to all fans that can be redeemed immediately. And we're also going to give everybody free ice cream every day of the week. And we're going to buy everybody a Tesla. I think there's still a certain percentage of the fan base that'd be like, oh my God, this is a terrible idea. This is so stupid. Oh my God, how are you going to do it? Right? Like there's not news. There's no news that could be positive enough that it's not going to get kind of like eye rolled and poo-pooed by a certain segment of people that are loving UCLA. Do you think that's a fair statement to say right now?
Oh, totally. If UCLA gets a win, there's someone that's going to be pissed off about it.
Yeah, and whatever. That's their jam, and that's okay, and it's their right to be like that. However, I also have noticed a little bit of a, oh my God, this is so awesome. Is this Godhead or what? Big horn trumpets and everything. Yeah, I know, Rodney on the Rock or whatever. And just
it's
like
Godhead.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And now they have Deshaun Foster, and we're going to. It can't help but he wants to be a Bruin and he wants to be here and be successful. So we're always going to be successful. And oh my gosh, we're going to win the conference in the next 2 years. Now that might be overstating what the positivity is, but there's definitely been a positive vibe to a lot of people's characterizations of this program right now, right? And all I would say is it's okay to feel good about them hiring Deshaun Foster. It's okay to feel good about them hiring Eric Bienemy. It's okay to feel good about the Bruins not having Chip Kelly, being the albatross to fans feeling good about themselves going into next year. All the baggage that he carried. It's great to have that gone. It's great to have that gone. However, I would just caution fans about getting your hopes overly inflated going into next year. Just keep in mind that the Vegas over-under is 5.5. And I think that if the Bruins win 5, 6, 7 games-ish next year, that should be hailed as a very, very grand thing, or as a good thing, right? A good, this shouldn't be a grand thing. It should be labeled as a nice indicator of what Foster's first year is, right? not expect, and just not get your expectations up too high, because there are going to be a lot of struggles going into next year, regardless of who they hire from here on out, regardless of who they have come in, any other player personnel they get. I don't know. There's a long way of saying, let's just hope for the best, but not get all pissy if everything isn't perfect, because we don't want to build it up so much to where now all of a sudden we're in a tear it down mode. Stop these high highs and these low lows. Let's just enjoy the breath of fresh air and see where it goes. That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of that, one quick, very last thing, because I do want to get to basketball, but Bill Connolly's winter preseason SP Plus came out, and this was after Deshaun was hired. UCLA is 37th overall, 62nd with offense, and 31st with defense. And this is knowing that they have lost so many players. Really quick thoughts on what you think about UCLA getting 37th in the SP Plus.
Yeah, I just think that, number one, it's an indicator, like the way that those things are structured is at the beginning of the season, there's a lot of data from last season in there. And so I think that's, they lose on offense. They're losing their quarterback that played half the season. And even though we all know that Dante Moore didn't play well last season, he did put up some stats in the first third of the season. And so that is production that is lost. And so your offense is going to drop in the SAP Plus a little bit. And it wasn't that great of an offense last year anyway, right? So you said it was, they ended up in the 60s on offense and in the 30s on defense, Mike?
Where did it go? Yeah, 31st defense, 62nd offense.
Yeah, and so I would say that that's probably, hopefully they can exceed the 62nd. I think that was, they were much better offense than they showed last year through a lot of the season for a lot of circumstances. Mostly it was the guy they decided to give a lot of money to that was a 5-star that wasn't ready, and we'll see how he does next year on the bench. And then the other part of that is the defensive stats are still, for that statistical model, probably very much loaded up with what was last year. And I know they lost some guys off their defense that played last year. They lost some production, but they still have some of those dudes as well. The Jay Toyas and some of those guys. There's still a lot of experience there on the defense. Even though they lost, they did lose some guys as well. So I don't know. I would be thrilled if their S&P on defense ended up anywhere near the top 50, quite honest with you, because with all the question marks, you're like, okay, that'd be awesome. And if that was an indication, I'm pretty sure their offense, well, I don't know. I checked that. Under Kelly, I was sure their offense would definitely be, well inside the top 50, if not, inside the top 30. That's what I was confident about. Now with Bienemy, I think it's a question mark. But if they do have a decent offense, and then it turns out they have a decent defense too, then this is a team that could really overachieve our expectations. So God bless Bill Connolly. He's a super smart guy. And, but I don't know if we can think too much into it at this point.
True. Yeah.
All right, Mikey, you got any more football talk?
Nope.
Okay, then let's quickly get to the symposium, and then we'll get to some basketball talk all the way around. I know you want to talk about the men's losses and the women's victories. So let's go.
Do you think we drink too much?
No, we don't drink too much. Men face reality, women don't. That's why men need to drink.
I hate it when podcasters talk about what they're drinking.
What else am I going to drink, Bob? A fucking Fresca?
We are not drinking Fresca tonight. I am having a little bit of Woodford Reserve, an old standby, one of my favorite, mass market whiskeys, and I can't wait to make my trip out to Kentucky at some point to go to all those fun distilleries. But it is the What's Bruin Symposium on the What's Bruin Show. And, of course, a symposium is a conversation over drinks, and that's what I'm drinking. Mikey, I imagine you cracked something over there. What do you got?
I brought this on before from Pizza Port Brewing Company. This is Swami's India Pale Ale. It's awesome because a lot of tall boys, because they are tall boys and they supply more beer, they do 4-packs. Well, Swami's does a 6-pack of tall boys. So a little more bang for your buck. And especially at Trader Joe's for only $12. That's cheaper than most 6-packs.
Big victory.
Exactly. But no, I quite like this one. It's very very subtle, but no, it's a really good beer.
All righty. Well, I appreciate that, Mikey. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying the show, whether or not you are having a drink. But you can support the show, of course, on Patreon, patreon.com/What's Bruin Show, or on the Substack for a little bit more than the Patreon at Substack. whatsbruin.substack.com, I think. But for just a little bit more than $2,
$2.
you can send the What's Bruin Show into the future. And, of course, we appreciate all of your support. All right, men's or women's basketball, we'll let Mikey choose which one we talk about first. But so, Mikey, the men's team has cooled a little bit. The women's team had a big win the other day, or last night, I should say. Where do you want to go first?
Give me the bad news first.
All right, let's go to the men's team. They end up losing to those stupid men of Troy the other night, and that's before that they lost a close game to the Utes, right? Yeah, that Utah loss. I think you talked about that last time when I was on my cruise. But now they've lost the last two in a row. Certainly, like all the things about them somehow sneaking their way into the NCAA tournament are kind of gone unless they go on a severe heater in the Pac-12 tournament. But where are you at with the team? And now that they've kind of lost momentum that they had built, where are you at?
Oh, it's it was pretty rough. Like it can pretty much be guaranteed that they are not going to the NCAA tournament unless they win the Pac-12 tournament. They look to see it looked as if they would have an outside trajectory prior to the Utah loss, but you lose to Utah, and that wasn't a horrible game. It was just horrible down the stretch.
Yeah,
this one against USC was just horrible.
All out of whack.
Throughout the whole game, except for maybe the last 5 minutes of the first half, where UCLA actually put some effort and energy and was able to come back from 14 down and tie it at halftime. And then they come back from break and they played just like they did to start the game. Just no effort, listless. Offense was just not there at all. It was one of the worst offensive performances this season. And, I talked to a lot of people, even this, reporters, just like, we had not seen an abysmal offense like this from a UCLA team in a while. And, defense was actually not bad. There were times where USC struggled, and except for what's his name, Boogie Ellis, who had 27 million points.
Too many.
No, but in reality, he had 24 points off 9 of 18 shooting, 3 of 7 from the 3-point line, and added 5 rebounds. But he was just able to just kind of slice through UCLA's defense at different points in the game. And it's crazy because you look at the numbers and even the game, like I said, the defense wasn't that bad. Like the rest of the team didn't really play that great. Who was it? Isaiah Collier had 11 points, but it was off of 4 of 12 shooting. Kobe Johnson had 10 points, but it was off of 4 of 7 shooting. It wasn't it wasn't a great offensive game for USC. It's just that a lot of the defensive lapses happened late. Actually, it was throughout the game, but UCLA just could not make a shot to save their lives. They had been shooting very well from the 3-point line for a few weeks, but that has dropped significantly. And also, on the other end, the 3-point defense has been abysmal. Not only have opponents been able to shoot better in the last, I'll say 4 games, but they're making more 3-pointers and they're attempting way more 3-pointers. That's not good. That says a lot about what UCLA's 3-point defense has not been able to do in limiting teams. And that's not what you want to see going into the postseason, especially the Pac-12 tournament, where you have to survive until the end if you want to get to the NCAAs, because that's the only way that UCLA is getting there at this point.
Yeah, and they're giving up SC shot 44% from the 3-point line. Meanwhile, they're shooting less than half that percentage, right? So just not I don't know, very disappointing, I think. But at the same time, I think overall, you're still, the way this team has gone up and down through the season, they still have a chance to finish the season strong if they play well in these last 4 games. And, we're starting to get our hopes up as far as like them being able to at least get into the tournament and then just kind of see if they can have some fun in there. But now that kind of dream is kind of off the table for them, almost certainly. Now we just enjoy how they play this stretch out. Cronin said something about them not bothering with the NIT, right? So in reality, outside of the Pac-12 tournament, and they, unless they make a huge run there, these are probably the last 4 games for this season, right?
5 with the first game of the Pac-12.
Well, yeah, I mean, the last 4 are like, regular season games.
No, 4 regular season, yeah.
And then
exactly.
at least 1 tournament game, yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
But they're probably, my point is, they're not going to the NIT, are they?
It's, Cronin's not like I don't know how much I put into it where he says like, oh, we don't pay attention to that. I mean, I think to an extent you kind of have to pay attention to that. Like, obviously, the more you win, the better your odds are for getting a better seed, getting into winning a series of games. But I think you have to be aware a little bit. You don't want to put it into your players that, oh, we have to win this because we have to get into the this seed of the Pac-12 tournament. That I think is not a good game plan. But from a coaching perspective, talking with other coaches, you got to say like, okay, where are we going to be for this? Because you have to prepare too. There is a big difference between playing 4 games to win the tournament and playing only 3. And right now, UCLA is tied for 4th place with Colorado. Both of them are 9-7. If they win the last 4 games, they're definitely in the top 4, and they get that first round bye. Which, no matter what, that's what whether you're about to win the regular season championship or you're on the bubble in the top 4, it does make a difference being number 4 and number 5. So. Yeah, I think you just have to be a little bit of aware of where the team is at, and it's just funny how as bad of a season UCLA has had. UCLA is technically only 3 games out of first place. I don't think Arizona is going to lose 4 straight. Neither Washington State, who has been on fire, but. There's a really good chance to try to make something of the Pac-12 tournament.
Well, they do play those 2 teams, coming up.
Yeah. Not easy,
yeah. But yeah, it doesn't seem, I think that would be the goal for, at least the short-term goal for the team would be to get a bye in the first round of the Pac-12 tournament and just see how you do. So we'll see. I mean, it's been more fun watching this team lately than it had been, especially through the middle of the season and towards the end of the non-con season. So let's just hope for some more sparks from this team, and let's hope that there's some more games that we can root for them in, and kind of go from there, because there's not really any more stakes to the season, so to speak, other than them doing a really good job making some sort of run. As of right now, they have 4 regular season games left. 2 of them are going to be on Fox Sports 1, FYI. That's at Washington on the 29th. And then the last game of the season, hosting Arizona State on 3/9. At Washington State won't be televised on the Pac-12 network on March 2nd. So good luck if you have the Pac-12 network still. But if whatever, we know that qualifies as barely televised. And then the Arizona game probably, Mike, you imagine that's probably going to be a national game in some way, shape, or form, right? Or that'll probably be actually on a real TV network, right? They're not going to put that on the Pac-12.
Jake, we have breaking news on that.
What's brewing?
Breaking news on a weekly basis.
News just in.
Okay, so on 3/7 they play Arizona at Pauley. Mike, what network is the game going to be on?
Yeah, the game's going to be at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN.
All right. Well, there you go. All right. Well, so cool. So 3 out of the last 4 games are actually going to be on real TV, and then one of the games will be relegated to the not televised Pac-12 network. Good. And then the Pac-12, the tournament, the early rounds of that are untelevised, right, on the Pac-12 network, aren't they? Like,
yeah.
Right? Okay, that sucks. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. Well, there you go. So let's get on to the women's side of things, Mikey. After they went through a kind of a little bit up and down segment of their season, they've actually won a few in a row, and then they won a very big, important game against Colorado just last night. So now they're looking a little better, solidified their... let me ask you, Mike. Are they looking a little bit better? What's the state of the team? What's going on?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, the Bruins were hanging tough. Little new kids for you.
Thank you.
With Lauren Betts out for those 4 games. And they didn't look horrible, except against Stanford. That was just brutal. But they were hanging in there. Since Lauren Betts has been back, UCLA has gone 3-1. They had that heartbreaker of the game against Oregon State.
Yeah.
But even in that game, they looked a lot more like the team we saw in the first 10 games of the season. Now, UCLA has lost 5 games this season. And there was a stretch of 10 games where they won 5, lost 5. Since then, they have 3 wins and are, like I said, looking so much better. Last week, I said that a lot of things are riding on the weekend games against Utah and Colorado. Obviously, you want to get a win, but this late in the season, you want to try to get the home sweep. You want to try to make a statement in those wins, because this could be a legacy-defining weekend for UCLA. This could be a season defining moment for UCLA, because they looked so. I mean, I was not average, like above average, but they didn't look elite as they've done several times during the season. And I was saying, if you can get a win against ranked Utah and ranked Colorado, that is not only going to put them back in the top 4, which before this weekend, they were in 6th place. Can you imagine that? 6 teams in the Pac-12 that are ranked in the top 25, and 2 of them cannot get that first round bye. That was important. But also to try to get, but also I think last week they were I got to see what it was. I'll look right now. But last week, UCLA was a number 3 seed or 4 seed in the bracketology. You obviously want to get that.
They're back to a 2.
Get as high as a seed.
No, they're back to a 2, but they're in the, according to the bracketology, they're in the region with with South Carolina. So that would be hopefully they can play themselves in being a 2 that's anywhere but there, right? Because right now that would put them as the last 2, I imagine. Yeah, exactly. And you still got 2 games at Arizona State and Arizona. And oh my God, Arizona is having such a meltdown. Their top scorer just left the program. Yeesh. That's the 3rd player this season that has left the program. That's insane. This was a team that was in the championship game 3 seasons ago. Adia Barnes, I don't know what's going on there, but woof. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But that's good for UCLA. If they don't have their top scorer, that makes it easier for UCLA. And then against Arizona State, well, they're the worst team in the Pac-12, and UCLA handled them during that 4-game lull where Lauren Betts wasn't there. So I can imagine that they can walk into a Tempe and get a win. Either way, huge that UCLA beat both Utah and Colorado, and this is interesting spacing. So UCLA, which usually plays women's basketball, Pac-12 usually plays on Fridays. Well, the women played on Thursday against Utah. Then they had 4 days till their next game against Colorado, as you said, on Monday. And then, so that was yesterday on a Tuesday. We're recording on a Tuesday.
They play on Thursday, 3 games later, and then on Saturday.
Yeah, it was wacky.
Yeah,
and that's
just
to
a
close out the
weird-
season. Yeah.
That's to close out the season, yes. So, just to rewind it a little bit, they take on Utah, which did have a few players missing. They beat the crap out of them, 82-52. London Jones just was on fire. She was just hot coming off those screens and just hitting 3-pointers. She hit 7 3-pointers for 23 points. It was brutal. Just everybody was in sync, and it was such a beautiful game, especially to get that the revenge off of that horrible overtime loss in Salt Lake City a few weeks ago. The Colorado game, which I was actually at, UCLA got out to a big lead, and yeah, UCLA has had some problems with the second quarter lulls, and sure enough, Colorado got back in the game in the second quarter. But halfway through, UCLA went on a run and took the lead. Halftime happens, same thing in the third quarter. Colorado goes on its run, not only gets to within a basket, but actually takes the lead. But then after that, UCLA goes on a run and holds on to the lead and just barely holds on to it, and eventually just hangs on to the win, because it was actually pretty close within the last, I think it was 2-3 minutes, and just some key steals and blocks, especially by Lauren Betts, who only had 2 points, which, yeah, it was an ugly game because neither team can score. It just horrible offensive game. But defense on both sides was actually really good. But UCLA's defense was just that much better to where they actually pulled out the win. Charisma Osborne hitting a late 3-pointer to just really, keep Colorado at arm's length. They get 2 wins at home against ranked teams. And now they are not only back in the, this was before the actual Colorado game. UCLA was back in the top 10 as number 8 in the nation. And they are now tied for second in the Pac-12. So
that's good.
Lot going on there with just 2, what would otherwise be regular wins. These wins really boosted UCLA's resume. And, thank God, because as I said, that 10-game stretch where they lost half of them, that was not good.
Yeah. No, certainly. And I would say, like, going into the last 2 games of the season, there's certainly some rooting interest that fans should have for the other games across the country to close out the regular season. Number one, first and foremost, we're always rooting for USC to lose. They, just like the Bruins, have the Arizona schools on their slate. But it would be make us all happy if either one of those squads took down the Trojans. In conference, Stanford still plays the Beavers this weekend. That's the only ranked team they have left.
Nice Beaver.
But I think we're all hoping that the Beavs upset the Cardinal in that matchup. Number 2 in the country, Ohio State, is taking on number 6 in the country, Iowa. That's kind of tomato. Either one of those teams losing is going to be actually good for the Bruins in the rankings. So that one, whatever, we don't have to root either for either team in that matchup. The Longhorns, who are a couple spots ahead of the Bruins, are taking on the Sooners in a big rivalry game on the 28th. So we're definitely rooting, say, Boomer Sooner for that game. And then Virginia Tech, which is just ahead of the Bruins, they have the Fighting Irish on the 29th as well. So we're going, let's go with the Irish on that game. And if we can get a few upsets out of there, then that'll give the Bruins, the ladies, a chance to kind of move up the rankings even more, which would certainly be nice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because after you get past South Carolina, all the other teams have 3, 4, 5 losses. That's kind of the glut in the rankings. So the Bruins certainly, if they they hold up their end of the bargain, take out the Arizona schools, hopefully they will have a chance to move up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really important for them to get off of that. Yeah, and by the way, you don't know what ESPN's bracketology is. It's not definitely going to be what is reflected in the tournament. But Mikey, actually, I don't know. Let's see that bracketology here. Who's the 3 seed in that region? It is NC State. Sorry, Mike, I'm doing a little bit of math just on my own here.
No, do it.
I think that, I don't know. How do you feel about this, Mike? It would be better for the Bruins to be a number 2 seed or be a number 3 seed away from South Carolina than it would be to be a number 2 seed with South Carolina. Don't you think?
Yeah, most likely.
Because it just feels like, they're undefeated. They're, they may or may not be a team of destiny, but you'd much rather play them in a Final Four or a final game, assuming that the Bruins have the potential to go deep into the tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to play them, to get into the Final Four, assuming that the Bruins could make it through those matchups. So
true, but
what?
Here's the thing. UCLA actually knows South Carolina. They've played South Carolina several times in the last 5 years. Last year, they played them twice. Sure, they got their butts kicked in the NCAA tournament just because they kind of ran out of the gas and roster power against a team that was just on fire. But they played them in the non-conference earlier in the season, and that was at South Carolina. And even though South Carolina won, I think by 8 eventually, UCLA was in control of that game for 75% of that contest. Unfortunately, just South Carolina just had, way too much firepower. And actually, that was one of the reasons, Corey Close, was going after Lauren Betts and actually got her, is because UCLA has not had a dominant center. And now that they have one, things are coming together.
I don't know, Mike.
So I would say, even if UCLA did have to go against South Carolina, they would be well prepared for that battle.
That's fine. I still think I would rather them be in a bracket with Ohio State or Texas, or even Stanford. Even though Stanford whooped their ass, at least it's an opponent that I'd rather be in a bracket with any one of those other teams, even though that being a 3. Than being a 2 in the Carolina bracket. But look, whatever. I mean, that's, whatever. You're going to have to play tough games in the tournament no matter what. And maybe it just gives you the opportunity to make the big upset early, or early-ish. But that all remains to be seen. Of course, we don't want to put the cart before the horse. They need to play well, beat the Arizona schools, and then play well in the tournament, at least win a few games in that. A couple games, at least, in the Pac-12 tournament to give themselves the best put themselves in the best posture going into the tournament regardless, right? But it is fun because, we're not probably going to have a men's team in the NCAA tournament, but at least we'll still be able to get some tournament action out of UCLA sports for, 2024, right, Mikey? Yeah. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say really quickly. And I think getting wins at Arizona and let's say they at least get to the championship game of the Pac-12 tournament, I think that at least warrants, at the very least, a number 2 seed in the Portland section, which would take them out of the bracket with South Carolina and Albany.
I'm all for that.
So,
yeah. I'd rather some of these teams that we talked about rooting against lose, and then they win, and then it rockets them up into a better matchup, as opposed to, backdooring their way into a better matchup. I think that's what we prefer. So
exactly.
But I guess we'll see how it goes. Mikey, I guess with that being said, do you have anything else to talk about?
No. It's actually good to talk to someone. Last week I was struggling. I know I've done it before.
You did a fine job, Mikey.
I was actually I was quite tired. Yeah. And, friend of the show, Leo, he told me that I forgot to put it on Patreon, which I was like, God damn it.
You did. And you're right. You did.
I put it on the regular Podomatic feed, which goes directly to iTunes or Apple Podcasts. But yeah, completely forgot about the Patreon. Sorry, y'all.
That's okay.
Sorry.
And I'll try to remember to put it up on the Substack and the Patreon if you were missing it, for those of you that did miss it, so you can hear Mike talk solo. But yeah, that is what happened. But we'll just move on from there. Mike, with that being said, let's get to What's Brewing with You.
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, I was drunk for a week in Mexico.
You're on a boat.
I was on a boat.
You're on a boat.
It was very nice. I'll just tell you. Had a very nice time. on the Mexican Riviera cruise on the Norwegian Bliss from Sunday to Sunday. It's the longest cruise I've ever been on. I certainly, my experience on the cruise would not prevent me from going on another cruise of that length or longer. I am someone who has always kind of enjoyed the idea of, like my hero Petros Papadakis, I enjoy a nautical theme, and cruising is certainly applies to that. And nothing about this cruise is discouraging me from doing it in the future. Although, obviously I want to hit some different locales. I'd love to be in the Caribbean. I'd love to go to Alaska. I'd love to go to Europe. But cruising is certainly a viable option for me to do any of those vacations at this point going forward. And I did enjoy. I had never been to any of the ports before. I spent a lot of time on Baja California in my life, in my younger years, and in the last 10, 15 years, gone there numerous times. But I had never been off of the peninsula of Baja. So this time we got to the very southernmost tip. It was the last stop in Cabo, but the first two stops were on the other part of the west coast of Mexico in Puerto Vallarta and Mazatlan. And each one of those ports had some appeal to it. Didn't have a bad time in any of the places, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Did you that's what I was going to ask. Like, did you dock and were able to go to the, walk around, dry land for a while?
Yeah, a little bit. We in Puerto Vallarta, we actually did our most of our walking there. Right at the port, they're doing a couple of different developments. Like, they're putting in like a proper shopping mall with like an Apple store and Express and things, right? And it wasn't fully built, but it was nice enough to walk around. But then we took a cab ride down to the older part of Puerto Vallarta. And by the way, Puerto Vallarta, an old city. It was literally, it was founded in the 16th century, for goodness sakes. Like it was like 1550 or something. So obviously a very, very old city. And it was a lot of fun to kind of look around there. They had a nice little beach walk where it's got, like just the kind of typical flavor you're going to get from being on a Mexican vacation for sure, but also just its own uniqueness, being such an old city. And we ate a wonderful meal at a place called Oscar's, and then walked along their little river walk that's got kind of like a flea market thing going to it. And then they actually have a section where Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton and some other like older celebrities used to own property down there, and they call that Gringo Gulch. So we walked through there, and that was kind of fun. Yeah. And then they have a bordering on ancient church right in the middle of that area that was kind of cool to look at. So it was a lot of fun in Puerto Vallarta. Mazatlan, the port is actually in like their kind of like cargo container area. It's kind of like the Mazatlan's port is kind of like San Pedro, where it's like there's not a whole lot going on there other than like shipping. And then we took a little bus ride out of that area, and certainly there are some parts of Mazatlan that are in pretty rough shape, but their little shopping area, resort area is also very, lovely, and it has its own appeal. And we got onto a little boat and did a little charter out to a place called Deer Island, and swam around and went on the beach and looked at some tide pools and stuff. So that was nice. It was just a nice little kind of tropical vacation fun. And then in Cabo, we went whale watching, and it was awesome. And Cabo's little port town, certainly, it's just really nice and fun to be in. We weren't there very long, but we had a good time. So yeah, all around, lots of fun. And the days at sea on the boat were wonderful. The ship itself was really nice, and we had a bunch of different. We met a bunch of people, which it's funny. We're not ones to solicit talking to people on the cruise, but we're not against it either. And so we talked to a couple that was half our age, that were from Alaska, and the guy ran like a fishing and hunting boat, and he was very fun to talk to. And we spent an afternoon talking to them, and then we were wine tasting with a couple that were twice our age, from Indiana, and they were just really nice, lovely people, and had fun talking to them. And then the very last night we had I'll have to tell you, Mikey, I was very proud of myself, because although I drank like a fish, like we were starting at like 10, 11 in the morning and, going the rest of the day. But every single day on that boat, except for the day we debarked, I was up and I jogged, a few miles multiple times on the cruise, on the boat deck. It was, I was getting up and getting my exercise in, and I felt very, very relaxed and refreshed all the way up until the very last night on the cruise. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we met a lovely couple, Dawn and Greg. Greg Gurman, Don and Greg Gurman. And we just met them at the bar and started chatting up with them. And 8 hours later, we were completely smashed, and we had to get off the boat like 5 hours after that. It all worked out, but the only hangover I had was the very last day of the cruise. So I didn't leave the cruise as well relaxed and refreshed as I thought I would, but we still had a great time, and it was great talking to those guys. And they might be like, cruise vacation buddies in the future. They were such a lovely couple. So that was very nice. We love the Gurmans. So that was nice. Mikey, sorry, I waxed on a little bit about my vacation, but what's wrong with you, my friend?
Not as cool as you.
You got to go on a cruise, Mike. You were like telling us how you're like all afraid of the germs and all that stuff. Dude, embrace it, man. Come on, let's go.
Oh, God,
Let's Bruin cruise coming up.
Humans
Leo, tell me where you want to go. We're going to go on a cruise.
Humans are gross, okay? They are gross petri dish, live organic petri dishes who just pass on diseases to each other. I'm just kidding. I'm going way off.
Yeah.
I'm not that much of a germaphobe. I work in education, so you understand my germaphobography.
I work in safety. I completely understand.
Exactly. It's just that I'm just not a boat guy,
You need to become a boat guy, Mike. I'm just telling you. But anyway, I don't want to derail you, man. What's wrong with you, man?
Wait, fuck it. Let's rent a PJ and like fly to like New York or something.
That would be awesome.
I'd be down with that. Not as fun or entertaining or exciting as yours. What I do on Friday, I went to go guest host my buddy's show, Audio Bond. They do this this really cool indie radio show out of their studio in it's technically East LA, but it's literally right on the LA River. And they have this fire escape, which, you can go out and, especially on sunset, just a beautiful view of downtown Los Angeles, right next to the 6th Street Bridge. On Saturday, I was there for the UCLA USC game, which I was getting hyped up for. It was really fun to see, Deshaun Foster, come out there, and the team was ringing the bell in front of all the Trojans. What didn't work was that they lost. So
yeah, it was a bummer.
But that's where he actually announced that the spring game will be on April 27th. So Sunday didn't do much. I did my radio show. I was supposed to have a guest. And that fell through again.
Bummer.
I just played some old. I found all these EDM electronic, like rave vinyl. I completely forgot about. So I just did this electronic set on Sunday. So that was kind of fun. And then Monday, I was at the women's basketball game, the final women's Pac-12 basketball game ever. So that sucked, but it was also good to see senior night. Izzy Anstie, Angela Dugalich, Cameron Brown, Emily Bessoir, and the GOAT, Charisma Osborne. So, their last game, not in Poly, because most likely they will, the way that the women's tournament is set up is that I think the number 1 and 2 seeds host the first 2 games, basically the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So, the first weekend of the women's NCAA tournament will be at Poly Pavilion.
Very nice.
So that's it. Nothing much.
Well, good, Mikey. Well, as you were talking about your thing, I'm circling back around to the cruise thing. And by the way, I think I put this on our text thread, but I really am going to make a strong push for a Laval cruise. And if we do a Laval cruise, you're gonna have to go. Like, I'm just going to kidnap you and make you get on the goddamn boat. FYI.
Fine.
Okay? So, all right. I'm good. I'm just glad we're right there.
I'll only go if they have beer.
Mike, there's endless beer.
What?
Endless.
You didn't tell me this.
Endless beer. In fact, so that's I was on Norwegian instead of Carnival, and there's lots of things. Like, I probably spent more money on, because I was a newbie on Norwegian as opposed to what I knew about Carnival. But Mike, endless beer. No,
right.
It doesn't. It doesn't end. All right, good. We're going to each other boat.
Fine, I'll go.
All right. Well, All right. So, Mikey, I don't know whether you'll be here or there next week, but we will do a show to talk about how the weekend went for men's and women's basketball, and we'll see if any other things develop with UCLA football. But we're kind of in the slow season right now for us, although basketball's still alive. I mean, I guess it's not slow season quite yet. But if you guys have anything to say, any comments, any suggestions, any feedback at all, give us a call on the hotline, 805-399-4WBS. Thank you, Second Range Troy. Or send us an email at whatsbruinshow@gmail.com, or on the Twitter or on the Instagram at whatsbruinshow. And let us know what's up. And until next time, Mikey, what do we say?
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, bro, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.